Hey, what's happening? Welcome to the Pleasure Points podcast. I'm your host, James Rohr.
Wait, I thought I was going to be the host for this one. It's Jen.
Yeah, so she's here. And when she's here, the podcast doesn't really need much of an introduction. So thank you so much for joining us in this episode. We're sharing with you some powerful information to help your digestive health get to where it needs to be. And as always, you can follow us on Instagram at the Oilgram. Jennifer's at Jennifer Pansa. I'm at James E. Rohr. You can email the show, pleasurepointspodcast@gmail.com. And if you love the episode and you like the show, it'd be awesome if you share this episode with your friends and family. And if you would leave us a review on iTunes, that would be great. That's a lot of requests from me. So we're going to give you back a lot of information here. So get out a pen and paper and enjoy this one. Hey, Jen, welcome back to the show.
Hi, I love being on my show. I mean, our show.
Well, I figured I should give you a chance to do a pizza leftover. That didn't really warrant a rebuttal, but I'll let you talk about what happened on your side of the story.
Well, to be fair, that pizza was horrible. It was the worst food choice I've ever made in my life. But I was running super late and it happened to be the only thing in the refrigerator. And what made it worse was that I didn't have time to heat anything up and we had no food in the refrigerator. So I put it in the toaster. Piece of pizza was in the toaster. And I was actually on my way to teach yoga, which I never recommend for anyone to do after eating a piece of pizza that was that caliber of horrible. And I literally felt bad for 24 hours after eating it. Like stomach hurt, felt lethargy, exhausted, just nothing was okay about that pizza. And I wish that I would have let you eat it.
Yeah. Yeah, you've gone too far on the healthy spectrum. You can't handle stuff like that. I like to make sure my diet is just bad enough that I can eat stuff like that and not totally die. And it was funny because when I looked at after the initial wave of disbelief that all of that pizza had been eaten, my next thought was, oh, she's going to feel terrible. I don't think she realized how much of that pizza you ate.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that it spiraled me right into a vegetable eating super healthy kick. So I was like, no more. I think just coming from the holidays, we ate a bunch of weird stuff that I don't normally eat when we were with your family in Chicago. All delicious things, but yeah, I really had to clean it up. Just now, all the time. I can't wait for January detox. I might start it now. I'm going to start the detox now, just from that pizza I ate.
Yeah, and you mentioned that when we talked about afterwards that there was another pizza in the freezer. So you were like, well, whatever, he'll have food. He can just heat that one up. But that gets into complicated pizza math because I knew that if I were to I didn't want to heat that pizza up because then we'd had 2 frozen pizzas 2 days in a row. And I knew that I was probably going to overeat that new pizza. And the beauty of having the leftovers was it was going to have sort of built-in portion management. But I'm like a fat kid around pizza. I just can't help myself. And so I was like, man, if I heat up that other pizza, I'm going to end up eating way more than I should. And then there's going to be leftovers. The next day, I figured you were going to be super sick from the amount that you had eaten of the leftovers, so you weren't going to eat it. And then I was going to eat it again, and that's 3 days in a row, and then all the pizza that we had in Chicago. So I didn't do it. I think I don't know, I had some fruit or something instead.
Wow, look at you. A+.
Yeah, and then you came home, you texted me the green puke emoji.
Yeah.
And then when you came home and you were just like, I need all of my essential oils because I feel terrible.
Oh, yeah. I just did everything. I did every digestive oil there was and laid on the floor and groaned for quite a bit. And eventually it passed, thank goodness. Whew. Thank you, body, for putting up with that abuse that I put you through. That was tough times.
Yeah, we got to toughen it up. But let's talk about toughening up the digestion because I wanted to have you on here specifically to talk about, digestive health because this is something that is really that I am passionate about despite some of my dietary choices. And, I know that we've been doing a lot of work with doTERRA to, incorporate some of their existing products and the new products. And then we've got the cleanse that we're going to be doing in January. So I wanted to have you on so we could chat about all of the things.
Well, so this is where it gets interesting, because in this moment when I was eating that horrible pizza, I have so much faith in Digestive oil and Enzymes and all of the good things that I really thought that all of my oils would be able to counteract that horrible, horrible pizza. And it helped a lot, but you still got to eat healthy. And definitely for me, one of the biggest game changers has been cleaning up my diet, because it was funny eating that, because that's kind of how I used to eat in college. Like, I became a vegetarian when I was 17, for pretty hardcore in college. But as a vegetarian, you can still eat like pizza and macaroni and cheese and a lot of things that aren't necessarily healthy.
It's my kind of vegetarian.
Yeah. So, but once you have any type of understanding of nutrition, you realize very quickly that, just eating carbs and cheese is about one of the worst things that you could do for your digestive health. So once I started to understand that and started cleaning up my diet and really focusing on eating more fruits and vegetables and just having a different variety of vegetables basically in my diet, and started using the doTERRA supplements and the digestive oils, it's been amazing how much my body has reacted to that, from better skin to, having a more balanced mood to having an easier time losing weight and building muscle. I attribute all of that to really having a better diet and to some of the tools that we have been using, such as those digestive enzymes and probiotics and vitamins.
Yeah, one of the things that I find so fascinating diving into like digestive health and the physiology of the body is how much of both like brain health it comes through the gut, and then also how much of our immune system is regulated by the gut. And, when we might talk about, and, we'll joke, we talk a lot about poop on this podcast anyway, but, talking about how how uncomfortable it can be to be bloated, right? The vanity aspect is annoying, and it just can feel kind of like, it doesn't feel so good. But to really scratch at that or peel away and go beyond just the bloating, like what is happening underneath that? And that when there's bloating, oftentimes that's going to speak to, there's an inflammatory process that's happening in the body. And that when the body's inflamed, you've got vital energy and resources that are being taken up to produce that inflammation, that if that wasn't there, the body would have a lot more freedom to create all sorts of other, healthy neurotransmitters for the brain, or to put energy into the immune system and all of that.
I had no idea about any of this stuff, but I just felt bloated. A few years ago was the first time that I had really done the cleanse. And I was actually having some symptoms, such as being bloated, and I was gaining weight, but I was exercising like a crazy person, and I couldn't figure out what was happening to me. And it wasn't just muscle that I was gaining. It was clear that there was something else going on, and I didn't know what it was. And so that's what really prompted me to start digging into more of this digestive thing. Because I'd heard people say, the gut is a second brain and all of the things that you just said. But I didn't really understand it within my own body until I was experiencing those symptoms of really feeling frustrated that I couldn't get my body to act and to feel the way that I knew that it was supposed to. So for me, that journey of starting to take supplements and to really look at diet and really understanding the connection of our gut to our brain has been such a game changer. I think that, as you were saying, the immune system is in the gut. And I think a lot of people don't realize that also the mood is affected so much by the gut, that 70% of the serotonin in the body is actually created in the stomach. So not only was I having seeing the issues of the physical bloating from that inflammation that you're talking about, but also the mood effects from that. Obviously, if you're thinking negative thoughts about yourself, that's a different kind of inflammation. But that negativity, that heaviness, all of that is actually can be linked back to the fact that your body isn't producing as much serotonin or the happy hormone as it should be. So I noticed a huge difference once I started to really understand the gut more. And for me, I'm always a person that likes to be the human experiment. I like to try things out first and just see if it makes a big difference in my life before I recommend it to anybody else. And that was like the marking moment for me when you probably don't even remember this, but I was like doing yoga once in the morning and in the afternoon, and then going for an afternoon run, trying to lose about 5 pounds, and just nothing was working. I couldn't figure it out. And I was very angry about the whole process. And I just couldn't figure out what it was. And it really was the inflammation in the gut, and my mood dramatically improved once
Yeah, you did a good job of hiding that. I mean, I was still living in New York, and so I wasn't here all the time, but you hid that just as well as you hid all of your face masks. That now that we live together, I realized that you had like a whole other, like, we would hang up the phone in New York or FaceTime or whatever, and then you'd have like a whole other, like, later in the evening lifestyle routine that I wasn't privy to, and now I'm privy to it.
Yeah. And the nighttime routine is getting longer and longer every year. I think it's like 1 minute per year that you live. So now I'm up to at least 33 minutes of
at least
beautification processes pre-bedtime.
Well, I've been a slow adopter of supplements, and even, and I'm sure we'll talk about it with cleanses and detox, but, my training with Chinese medicine has always been that if your body is functioning well, then you shouldn't need anything from the outside. You shouldn't need supplements. You shouldn't need pills. You shouldn't need vitamins. You certainly shouldn't have to do a cleanse. But because if your body is functioning well, the liver's doing what it should do, the kidneys are being able to do what they should do, the spleen's working well, like your body is the best detoxifier, and it should be able to handle all that stuff. And the same thing when it comes to supplements. Now, when I started really getting into this stuff, I would have been super sick. And so I was just trying to like get a handle on inflammation. So I was taking anything and everything. And then as I started feeling better, I was like, well, I don't know that I need to take this stuff now. I'm kind of like out of the woods of this like acute crisis or chronic crisis. But what I've come to realize in, both having more clinical experience and doing the research on the stuff is that the ravages of the modern lifestyle are introducing variables to the body that just we haven't seen. We haven't been exposed to it. I know we talked about it in the Hidden Dangers episode a little while ago. Mm-hmm. And it just keeps coming back to me that we're eating, let's talk about probiotics, right? So we're talking about probiotics here. So the probiotics are addressing this like huge deficiency of healthy bacteria that happens in the gut. So with any introduction of antibiotics, right? Anyone who's taken an antibiotic in their lifetime has done an incredible amount of damage to the amount and the quality of probiotics that are existing in their ecosystem. And what we're finding is that even that babies are born by C-section have less exposure to probiotics than those that have a vaginal birth. Vaginal birth, there's a bunch of probiotics in the actual birth canal that a baby is on the skin and is exposed to very early on that a C-section baby is not. And so with all of these like little things of the introduction of hardcore antibiotics and the C-sections and this sort of thing, but even more importantly than that is the food that we're eating, like in the standard American diet, is dead food. Right. It's not biologically active. It's not coming with enzymes, and it's not coming with that fermented goodness that you would get in like a kombucha or a miso or anything like that.
Yeah, I think the statistic that I've seen is that we're getting 1/8 of the nutritional value of our grandparents' generation, but we're having the entire toxic load of their entire lifetime exposed to us in one day.
Wow.
Which is kind of interesting when you put that in perspective. So I'm sure when, Chinese medicine was created, of course your body should be able to handle all of your kidney and your liver should be able to detoxify everything, because there wasn't really that much that the body couldn't handle. Of course that your body should be able to detox it. But nowadays, it's just like if your sewage system got backed up, your body cannot support the amount of toxic exposure that it is being exposed to on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And so I think that we've seen studies that show that people that supplement with probiotics have a decreased risk of colon cancer. And, I think that as part of if someone's looking to like really support their digestive health, I think that incorporating probiotics, especially if you're eating anything close to the standard American diet, is an absolute must. Because it's, we've got to reintroduce that healthy bacteria. I mean, I saw there was a suggestion that perhaps some types of autism and mood disorders could be connected to probiotic levels, or, the good bacteria in the gut. So it's fascinating. And I think that really nurturing this kind of ecosystem is something that we're just kind of now starting to understand and appreciate. But when you're looking at probiotics, the thing to look for is you want to make sure that there's like a good amount of strains, a good variety of strains, but that also that they are encapsulated in such a way that they can bypass the stomach acid to get into the intestines, which is really where they need to flourish.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. I never knew that a probiotic could do that before, because I would always just get the ones from Whole Foods. And of course, they have to be refrigerated. And, it says how many ever billion probiotics are in it, the different strains. And I would just always get those. But it was really tricky for me traveling because I could never take my probiotics with me because they needed to be refrigerated. So I was really excited to find the doTERRA ones that have the double encapsulation, because it's so easy for me to just throw them in my bag and take them when we're traveling or at night. Before I go to bed. If they're next to my nightstand, I have a lot better of a chance of remembering to take them versus having to dig in the refrigerator.
Yeah, and the cool thing too about the doTERRA one is that it's also loaded with what's called prebiotics, which is basically food for the probiotic. So you're able to, it's like thinking about planting a plant in like a nutrient-rich soil so that it can thrive. So in the doTERRA probiotic, it comes loaded with the prebiotic and the probiotic, which is awesome. But, so the other thing too, like in this realm, is that I think a lot about, the product that I take all the time. The first product of doTERRA's that I totally fell in love with is Terrazymes. And so Terrazyme is their digestive enzyme. And so digestive enzymes to me, like, were the easiest thing to kind of mentally come to terms with as far as like supplementing with, because the body, every digestive process happens in the body is going to require enzymes, right? It's an enzymatic chain of reaction that happens. And if the body is like putting so much time and energy into digesting the food, then other enzymatic processes in the bodies could perhaps be compromised. And I knew that, my diet isn't perfect, and I grew up in the Midwest, typical standard American stuff happening. And so adding the Terrazyme, which is going to have your amylase, the protease, the lipase, all of the things that are naturally occurring in the body, but more of it. It's basically, in Chinese medicine, we would call it like spleen qi, or digestive energy in a capsule, which, as an acupuncturist, we're constantly trying to support people's digestive health and to support that spleen qi, because it's not just about the digestive energy, but the Chinese medicine, they notice that, when it's that same energy system, when the digestion is strong, you have a better ability to assimilate and to take in and to process all the other things in your life. So the overthinking, the overworking, the overworry that can happen, all of that is related to that same energy system. And so whatever we can do to ease the burden on that is going to be really, really valuable, And so that's why they recommend eating things like soups and stews and, like body temperature kind of things, because it's easier on the body. And then, foods that are just really enzymatically rich are more easily digested. And unfortunately, with like pasteurization, microwaves, overheating, all of that stuff, the standard American diet especially is really destroying the natural enzymes in the body or in these foods that would make it easy for the body to assimilate.
Yeah, the other thing too is that people don't realize is that as you get older, the natural digestive enzymes that your body produces starts to reduce. So for me, after the age of 30, I started to notice that my body just started digesting a lot slower. And it's nice to have that little extra boost from the Terrazyme. And if anyone wants to see how these work, just Google doTERRA Terrazyme and then look up the videos on YouTube that pop up. It's so cool. If you like to watch science, it's fun to see what happens when this woman takes 2 bowls of oatmeal and she has them basically dried out And one of them she starts mixing Terrazymes into, and then the other one she just leaves normal. And what happens is that as she stirs in the Terrazymes, she creates this like milky, watery substance because the Terrazymes will actually start digesting the oatmeal, which is super cool. So especially, this is what I used when I was going on the pizza. I took like 4 Terrazymes. I was like, we can do it. That doesn't help the fact that it wasn't good to put in my body in the first place, but the Terrazymes will help digest that gluten, especially in the dairy, faster so that it can be easier to eat those hard to eat meals. Don't take advantage of it.
Oh, I definitely take advantage of it. I take it all the time. That's how I can get away, when I make jokes or when I talk about my diets, because, Terrazyme helps, right? It's like, it's a total enabling.
Yeah, you got your cholesterol done for our life insurance, and he comes out and he's like, my cholesterol is amazing. Terrazyme.
Yeah, if anything, it was borderline low, which is like insane.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. So those are the two kind of like direct digestive supplements that I take and that I recommend that people take on like the daily, right? The probiotic and then the Terrazymes with meals, and then I can go like a really, really long way, but there's still the issue of all of those hidden dangers, of all of the toxic exposure that we have, as you mentioned, how in one day we're exposed to all sorts of toxins that our grandparents had an entire lifetime. And so, with that, we've got, the multivitamins that we take all the time that we recommend that has a lot of liver and kidney support. But this is also where I think the importance of cleanses come in, and again, I used to be really anti-cleanse. But when I started really thinking and taking a look at how much of the chemical exposure we have and how much, support our bodies need, and then also looking into specific digestive diseases and issues that have, like, people suffer from candida, right? Where you got this like yeasty overgrowth in the intestines, which is terrible. Some people are having SIBO, which is like small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, right? Which is more growing of shit that shouldn't be there. And then, of course, there's a lot of, just the run-of-the-mill kind of bloating, the fatigue, the malabsorption that can be happening. There's something that's, called leaky gut, which is a sort of theoretical concept that when there's inflammation in the intestines, that particles that should be smaller are actually able to pass through the intestinal lining, and then that can basically lead to cloudy thinking and a lot of fatigue because you've got particles floating through the bloodstream that are too big that shouldn't actually be floating through the body that way. And so, to this end, I love what you've been doing with the doTERRA stuff with the doTERRA team in January, and I'm super excited. And actually, this year I'm looking forward to doing the cleanse because it's time to give a body a little reset.
Yeah, and I was the same way with cleanses. I thought from the yogic perspective that you either needed to just be eating lentils and ghee or you were juice fasting, and that was a cleanse. So I had never been exposed to a cleanse with supplements before where you could actually eat real food and be fulfilled on a day-to-day basis. So that was really cool to me. So that's why I love this so much, and I recommend it to my yoga students, and we do it all together as a big family, all of our family and friends. And the reason is because it just reminds us, it's so easy to get caught up in packaged food, even if you are eating a plant-based diet, to get, the different packaged foods that are out there, and to really remind us to come back to whole foods and to eating the corners of the grocery store and getting out of some of these prepackaged things that have so many different ingredients in them. And also doing a systematic detoxification process of first the kidney, liver, then moving into the stomach, and then really creating cellular revitalization through the entire body. And for, like I said, I only love to recommend things that I've had dramatic results with. And I have done this cleanse, I think 4 times now in the last few years. And the first time I did it, I had a massive impact with my digestive health and with losing weight and the fatigue and feeling the bloating go away. That was huge for me. Thanks to Terrazyme specifically and the Zendocrine, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that was huge because I think there was just a lot of stuff stuck in my stomach and in my small and large intestines that just was not coming out, and it was clearly inflamed. Sorry if that's TMI, it's a little gross. But
not a regular pooper.
Yeah, I was not a regular pooper. Yeah, that's basically a great way to put it. And then the most recently when I did it last January, and I've done it a couple times since then, since I had gotten off of hormonal birth control last spring. And that was crazy on my body. And I definitely know that my kidney and liver needed a lot of support. And my face was, I'm going to be posting a before and after picture of my skin because I had horrible acne breakouts. My hormones were totally off of balance. And I know that from so many years of taking that prescription drugs that my kidney and liver had a very, I don't know, they were just having a hard time detoxing all of the things that I had put into my body. So once I did the cleanse a couple of times more recently, it's been amazing how my skin has cleared up. I feel my hormones are regulated and balanced now and how great I feel. So I can't wait. January, awesome. Let's do this.
So the cleanse is broken down into 3 different phases, right?
Yeah. So the first phase, it's a 30-day program, and the first phase is all about that kidney liver. So this is my favorite one because I think that my constitution in general, according to Chinese medicine, this is where things get stuck in my chi and my energy flow. So I love this
You're
portion.
Speaking Chinese medicine now?
Yeah. I basically, I'm you. So so the first one, so throughout the entire cleanse, you're taking the Cerezyme and you're taking the basic lifelong vitality pack, which is the supplements the basic vitality supplements that we take every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's your multivitamin. This is a cellular regenerative blend, which has a lot of antioxidants, and then omegas, which is your omegas 3, 6s, and 9s. That's either a vegan version or the fish oil version. So you do that, and then you are focusing on the kidney and liver. So you're clearing out anything that may be lingering there. Specifically, there's a lot of cilantro in the Zendocrine detoxification soft gels, which are really powerful for binding with heavy metals and releasing some of the things that your body may have accumulated, especially if you are a fish eater, if you have been exposed to any heavy metals throughout your life, this is phenomenal for
Yeah, so this is
that.
really important because like heavy metals are stored, a lot of them are stored in fat cells. And so if people are, especially if they're overweight, if they've eaten a lot of sushi, if they've, had a lot of heavy metal exposure, as they start to lose weight and that lipolysis starts to happen, where the disruption of the fat cells, right? You have to have something that's going to be binding to those, circulating through the blood, that's going to, pick up like hitchhikers or scavengers to pick up those heavy metals so that they can bind safely and then be excreted through the body.
Exactly. So within that soft gel blend, there's the tangerine, rosemary, geranium, juniper, and cilantro. And all of those are heavy lifters for the detoxification process, specifically for the kidney and the liver. And together, it's a really, really great combination. And then throughout the entire cleanse, there is a herbal supplement that is called the Zendocrine, say that 5 times fast, Zendocrine complex, which is a bunch of different herbs that are going like burdock root that really help to, is a more soothing blend that is going to help to release some of those stuck things and help get things moving in your body and just get you going to the bathroom.
Yeah. Again, you don't want that stuff. The whole idea is to detoxify the body, to get that stuff out of your cells, out of the organs, and then, get them totally out of you. So you got to keep that stuff moving.
Yeah. So that's the first 10 days. And then the second 10 days is all about that candida cleanse and really working in the stomach and moving into the GX assist. So this is a really
By stomach, you mean like the entire digestive tract?
Yeah, the entire digestive tract, which is the strongest ingredients that we have in this one is oregano, tea tree, melon, lemon, lemongrass, peppermint, and thyme. And
yeah, awesome. So like with these, we know that they have a you can look at PubMed.gov on it. You'll see that there's a lot of action on breaking down and addressing candida specifically. So there's a lot of research that shows that these essential oils are great at breaking down the candida and the growth that isn't helpful for the body.
Yeah. So how someone might know that they have candida out of balance is if you've ever eaten white sugar or white flour, you probably have some sort of candida imbalance in your stomach. And how you might recognize that is if you tend to crave sweets after you eat a meal, if you tend to be have an overactive appetite, even after you know that you've already satisfied your need. If you feel bloated, if you feel fatigue, and especially if you're reaching for a lot of those sweets, that can be a good indicator that you have some sort of candida imbalance in your body.
Totally. That's like the number one sign for me. So when I was starting to feel better, I was talking to this nutritionist, and I was saying, gave her my history and stuff. She goes, you probably still have some candida there. And I had a crazy sweet tooth. I still love sweets, but it was like really, really bad. And I remember that I would go into Starbucks, oftentimes not even like to get a coffee, but to get a sweet. And I started taking an oregano supplement. This is before I knew about doTERRA. And like 2 or 3 days later, I went into Starbucks to get a coffee, and I checked out with just the coffee. And as I was leaving, I thought, oh my God, it didn't even occur to me to get the muffin or the coffee cake or the, banana bread or whatever it was. And I was like that. I just thought that was so cool. Like, I love it when we have these kind of health transformations or shifts that aren't even necessarily conscious, when the effect is happening and you're like, oh, I totally forgot that's like, oh yeah, like I don't get headaches anymore or whatever. And that craving for sweets is a big one. So I know for me that if I start craving sweets again, that, I probably have some candida growth, and taking that supplement that you just talked about is a real game changer for me. And I can notice it. Sometimes I'll notice it within like 2 or 3 days. And that's how quick and how strong these essential oils are.
Yeah, 1,000%. So the last phase of the cleanse is all about restoring and regenerating the body. So the last 10 days, you are doing the probiotics, and then also a supplement is called DDR Prime, which is a mix of frankincense, wild orange, litsea, thyme, clove, summer savory, naioli, and lemongrass. And this, again, is really all about supercharging the cells and allowing your body to, with those powerful antioxidants, to enter homeostasis and to encourage that by rebuilding and rebalancing from the inside out.
Yeah. So this whole cleanse, like when you put it together, right? I mean, we're talking about just like basically starting with a clean slate, and so that's, we do it in January, right? To capitalize on that momentum of like new year, new you and all that stuff. But it's really much deeper than that, because when we're talking about the digestive health, we've talked about how, it has the serotonin and the mood impact, but so much of that area, right? The root, the second, the third chakra has to do with like, what is our relationship to ourselves? How were we raised? What do we feel about our tribe and our core community? How do we interact with ourselves and with others? And, going through a cleanse like this, or even just turning your attention back into your digestion and the digestive health, is like, it's such a powerful way to come back to self-love. And, because it's easy to like keep interfacing with the world and thinking that we're doing our best, and your body's getting inflamed and you're like, well, whatever, I'm just constantly bloated, it's fine. Like, not a big deal. Like, it's annoying, but maybe this is just the way that it is for me. And it doesn't have to be that way. We have tools and the expert guidance. And when we do the cleanse, I mean, talk about the kind of professional support that's there during the cleanse.
So it's amazing, the group of professionals that we have taking us through the cleanse. It's amazing. I personally have learned so much from the holistic nutritionists on our team, the registered dietitians, talking about relationship and with food and mental state. We have a mat, a physical therapy practitioner. We have visceral manipulation, which is all about how to massage the organs in the stomach. And it's just incredible, the lineup that we have of all kinds of information, meditation, yoga. And it's amazing that all of this extra information is all totally free. It just comes with the purchase of a cleanse through our team. And that's what makes this so cool, that we can band together with so many other amazing health professionals that can really teach us how to detoxify our home and learn new remedies and new ways to support our health in simple, easy ways to do it.
Yeah. And so if people are looking to, because I know a lot of the people that reach out to me for coaching help, right? They're in some way looking to transform their relationship with themselves. And by addressing your physiology is something that I'm incredibly passionate about, right? You can only, thinking good thoughts is only going to carry you so far. But when you can really integrate the change into your body and changing your physiological state, that's going to literally have like the foundation that's able to grow the seeds of the change. And this cleanse is, putting your attention to digestive health is great. And then especially this kind of cleanse because, I think about things like, candida and overgrowth and stuff like that is another physical representation of the fact that we're just carrying stuff that we don't need to. That we're carrying this kind of load and burden. And if you're ready to start like easing the burden that you carry, if you're ready to start letting go of some of the things that you've been holding on to, there's an opportunity for this cleanse to be just so much more than like quote unquote getting your digestion right. This is about really transforming your relationship to yourself and giving yourself a clean start.
Yeah.
And adding into that, like the essential oils, just like the essential oils are built into, all of these products. And even in the Terrazyme, there's the essential oils there. And I just love getting into that spirit of the plants as well, where it's not just like, it shows in the lab culture that it kills, candida cells. That it's like, no, you're getting like the roots and the twigs and the resin from these trees. And so we can get that spirit and the energetics as well to help bolster up our energy field.
Well, and this is something we haven't even talked about yet at all, but each of the phases, actually, the oils that are used in those phases have a direct effect on the emotions. And each of those oils actually work with the emotional body as well. So, when you're, like you were talking about in the middle section, when you're doing the oregano, oregano is a really powerful oil for destroying ties. So this is a great time to look at the relationships and the things that are toxic in your life that no longer serve you, that are not just the candida in your gut, but the rituals and the self-sabotage that's happening on an emotional level in your life. And what are you ready to purge? And what are you removing? And that is a big part of what we do too for every phase of the cleanse. I love, you're so good at explaining this to folks. You really guiding us through that throughout the cleanse is such a nice thing to have. And that complemented with yoga for me is a really nice combination with, in addition to all of the other amazing professionals that we have, because so much of our detoxification actually has to do with our own emotions and our own feelings about our lives.
Totally. And, addressing your gut and any sort of gut dysbiosis and making sure that your body has everything that it needs in order to digest properly and to thrive and to function is also going to allow your emotional state to be higher. When
Sure.
you're in a better mood and you eat, you're going to have a better crack at digestion. There was a study that was done a long time ago. I remember reading, it was these anthropologists were studying, I think it was a Native American tribe, and this particular group of Native Americans was eating like fried food and like spam and like, this sort of, we might look at it and be like, this is kind of a heartbreaking diet, but they didn't have any incidents of like high cholesterol or heart disease or anything, which was like shocking. Mm-hmm. And the anthropologists were trying to figure out like why that is, and this was a long time ago. Our lab tests, I'm sure, I know they're a lot more sensitive now than back then. But one of the things that they noticed was that in that particular culture, they had a rule that at mealtime, you weren't allowed to talk about anything serious. So the conversation always had to be light, and they were like making fun of each other and joking and laughing and just having a good time. And, you contrast that with like the typical sort of business dinner or business lunch that happens in our culture, right? It's no wonder that that stress and the tension of doing business over that could contribute to more digestive distress. And so the conclusion one of the postulations that these anthropologists had was that perhaps the way in which they were eating the food allowed it to be assimilated better, and that it wasn't triggering the kind of inflammatory cascade because their good mood was offsetting some of the digestive disharmony that could have been there.
1,000%. And I think so much in our modern day age, we are eating on the go. We're stuffing a granola bar in our mouth, or as we're driving, or we're drinking a smoothie
Whole bag of
on the go.
Goldfish crackers.
Whatever it might be, that fast food culture and being on the go. Just like me and the pizza the other day, it wasn't like I was sitting down and I was conscious and aware and thinking loving thoughts towards my food, right? But inviting that in as a regular ritual, like we often do with our meals before we eat, is to really sit down and thank ourselves for the meal and thank our bodies and put out that good mood and put your body in that parasympathetic state of relaxation, where your body in the rest and digest phase, where your body can actually receive the nutrients and will actually produce the enzymes that are needed to digest the food, and so that you can receive the nutrients. And that is a beautiful part of the cleanse as well, is reminders of that food psychology and how to create a better mood around meals and taking time out of your day to simply sit and be present. I remember you always thought it was so weird. You're like, I'd come home and I'd be eating with no TV on, no phone. I'd just be sitting there. You're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm eating. I'm being present to my food. I'm taking the time to just breathe and smell it and look at it and take it in without any other distractions. And, that practice is
foreign
paramount
to me.
Yeah, it's foreign. and it's beautiful. I think it's a really important part of digestion.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a household where there was a TV on in every room, or there's a TV in every room. And oftentimes most of them were on at the same time. And there was never silence at the dinner table. My memories of eating was that there was always a TV on. Maybe someone in my family can correct me. Maybe when I was a lot younger, we didn't have the TV on, but like certainly when I started getting into 10, 11 years old, like there was always a TV on, even if it was just the Weather Channel. My mom loved having the Weather Channel on. And it was just like this constant loop of the weather. Maybe that's why I hate talking about the weather so much.
That could be. You're just like over Weather Channel.
I just had an aha about the weather thing from last year.
That's so funny. Whereas in my family, every meal was just talking about the food. Like, what spices were in the food, and, is it too much of this or too much of that? And my dad would be saying how he wanted to do it different next time, or, it was just all about the food and no TV, totally present. Sometimes we have music, create the ambiance.
Yeah, and in my household, if somebody asked if there was a conversation about spices, it's because the food actually had flavor and somebody didn't like it. It's like, how come what is this flavor that's happening in my mouth? It should just be grilled or barbecued or like just super neutral, right? It was like, I'd have like a piece of white chicken with a white potato, glass of white milk. And, that was to cap off a day of Rice Krispies for breakfast and, peanut butter and jelly on white bread for lunch.
And that's why we didn't have a wedding, because it would have been like my big fat Greek wedding with my family mixed with yours. It's like hot peppers and spices for all, and
white bread.
And then white bread. And Terrazymes for everyone.
Terrazymes for sure. All right. So when's the cleanse is starting, what, mid-January?
Yeah. So the idea is that you need to get yourself, you can get the cleanse kit and all of the supplements as soon as this podcast is being aired. You just have to reach out to Jim, myself, or whichever advocate on our team is referring you to our cleanse. And then we can go ahead and get you going in January. The official start date is going to be January 20th. So you just need to make sure that you get your order in before January 10th so that we can start all together as a team. If you do want to jump the gun, you can do that as well. We do have all of those resources, but it's more fun if you do it together as everybody's going through that same journey. And we're going to have a lot of support, community support, where you can ask a bunch of questions and share your thoughts and successes and challenges as you go through it.
Yeah, so we're giving you guys plenty of time to, we're planting the seeds for you doing the cleanse, and plenty of time to have all of your questions answered, get all the support that you need, and then to get the products that are going to guide you through the process. So You guys can reach out to us at the Oilgram. That's at the Oilgram on Instagram. Jennifer's at Jennifer Pansa. And then, of course, I'm at James E. Rohr. And you can follow my new coaching Instagram at Inviting in Love for those of you who are looking to transform your relationship to yourself and directly to your love life. Need a little bit of help. I've got a lot more posts and activity happening over there now. So anything else, Jen?
You guys deserve to yourselves to feel better moving into 2020. So if you want to kick off the year feeling amazing and really getting things started on the right path, this cleanse will be 100% a game changer for you, as I know it has been for me in the past 3 or 4 years. So happy to join you in that journey and support you along the way.
And on that note, why don't you take us out with the theme music?
Do, 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 do. Now it's going to have to be like poop, 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 poop. Or
we set it up just fine. All you had to do was just do the theme music.
Blake, you can edit out the poop one.
No, Blake. No, leave that in, Blake. Okay. Want to try it again?
Do, 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 do.
Thank you, everybody. We'll catch you next time.